Thank you very much for joining me, Ambassador Kenneth Juster and former Foreign Secretary Harsh Vardhan Shringla. Ambassador Juster, what are you expecting from the new term of President Trump? Everybody across the world has got its binoculars on, telescopes on to look at what America is going to do next. How are you looking at the new term of President Trump, especially when it comes to a war-torn world where already we've seen some action coming in with the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas? Are we looking at Ukraine, Russia next?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. As the president-elect has announced, there's going to be a flurry of executive orders on day one. But in terms of foreign affairs, he's already had an impact. It's been extraordinary to see the activity of an incoming administration before they actually get into office. We've seen a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. And in the Middle East, I think the United States is going to want to continue to pursue other opportunities, including perhaps an Israeli-Saudi Arabia normalization. You mentioned Russia and Ukraine, which the president said was a priority to try to resolve. And obviously, there'll continue to be a strong focus on the Indo-Pacific region, the rise of China, and the importance of the U.S.-India relationship. But immediately, another area that has not been highlighted as much will be Latin America because of the focus on the border and immigration, a concern about imports of illicit drugs, and even cheap Chinese products that are coming through into the United States through Latin America. So it'll be a broad international focus for the incoming administration.
Well, let me ask you, when you talk about tariffs and cheap Chinese goods coming in, tariffs has been an area where President Trump has been looking at the Indian tariff structure as well. How do you expect that space to move forward?
Well, President Trump believes in the principle of reciprocity, and he has said in the past that he feels that India's tariffs are much higher than relative to the United States. And he has indicated his concern about that. That was a concern in the previous administration of the president. And so I do think if he follows through on what he has stated, there might be some initial tariffs on Indian imports, whether it'll be all of them or a select area. And it may well be that the Indian government will impose retaliatory tariffs. But I hope that is not the end of the situation, but only the beginning, and it leads to a negotiation that could not only enhance the trade relationship between our two countries, and after all, the United States is the leading trade partner of India. It will require India to lower tariffs in certain areas, but the dialogue should be expanded to include discussions on how India can lock in its benefits of trade with the United States in the services sector, how they can work together on technology and energy, where the United States, I think, will be happy to increase its energy exports to India and deal with India's energy security issues. And energy is an area where the trade deficit can go down. And even in the defense area, where if India purchases defense items, that also will reduce the trade deficit. So it'll be an area of active discussion. I don't think it will derail the relationship, which is very strong. And I hope it's actually viewed as an issue, an area of opportunity, rather than one of friction and contention.
Well, at least many in India would be heaving a sigh of relief hearing those reassuring words. But Secretary Shringla, there has been bonhomie, there has been a personal chemistry between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. Do you expect this to continue? Do you expect to see a certain, shift, considering the fact that President Trump in the previous term, most people figured out that he was not so much as a multilateralism guy as he was a bilateral relations expert. How do you see this complex relationship moving forward?
Well, from what we've seen in the first Trump presidency, Donald Trump attaches a lot of importance to relations with his counterparts. If he can establish a good relationship, if he is, sort of confident that his counterpart is someone who is willing to work with him and take that relationship forward, then it's so much easier, to deal with the priorities that are established on both sides. So I think we saw a very good chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, and that was highlighted during the Howdy Modi event in Houston. That was, I think, October 2019. Ken and I were both there, and that was really an incredible moment when two, world leaders got onto the stage, addressed 50,000 Indian Americans, and then President Trump came to India. I was then Foreign Secretary, Ambassador Juster was in Delhi. We worked on that visit. And again, the high point of that visit was when President Trump addressed 100,000 Indians in the stadium in Ahmedabad. And I think that was a memorable event for President Trump. I'm sure that he attaches a lot of importance to the relationship with India. He has a lot of respect and admiration for Prime Minister Modi. And I think that is where that relationship can take off on, its next strategic level under Trump 2.0. And I'm sure we are looking forward to an early engagement between the two leaders.
Well, that would be the hope. But Ambassador Kenneth Juster, many would be wondering that will President Trump in his second term pick up the threads of his relationship with India from where he left off 4 years ago? Will there be some calibrations? And how would he look at China, especially because during the time of Galwan in January 2020, the United States did come out and stand with India and actually told and in his statement, the US Secretary of State actually told off the Chinese and stood with India. Is it going to be as pronounced, or will there be balancing acts that President Trump would be looking at between China and the United States and India on the other side?
Well, one can never foresee the future with complete certainty, but I would agree with what Harsh has said, that the relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi is extraordinarily strong. The two of us saw it in action on a number of occasions, and I expect that to continue. And the president has even said that he has a great deal of respect for Prime Minister Modi and an excellent relationship with him. Look, no one wants to have a hot conflict with China, so just like the Indian government has sought to resolve difficulties with China, the United States will talk to the Chinese, and President Trump has indicated that he has already done that to try to work out issues that may relate to economic concerns, trade market access, unfair trade practices. But the structural challenges presented by the rise of China aren't changing one bit, and the United States is very committed to its Indo-Pacific strategy, and you've even seen the fact that the foreign ministers of the United States, India, Australia, and Japan will have a Quad meeting on January 21st. That'll be the first real diplomatic activity of the new government, and that sends a very strong signal about the importance of the Quad and of the U.S. relationships with those countries in the region. So I don't think that it means that if the United States or India tries to resolve issues with China, it in any way detracts from the U.S.-Indian relationship.
Secretary Shringla, Quad, the first meeting as early as tomorrow morning, should that give India a lot of confidence that the work done so far will be carried forward, and that as an important member of the Quad relationship, India is right there at the high table, and therefore interests will be common?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to recall that Quad was revitalized during Trump 1.0, and we had the first meeting at foreign ministers level in 2019. Before that, Quad was a moribund sort of grouping. And President Biden took it a step forward when he convened the first summit of Quad leaders. And I think, now it is India's turn to host the Quad summit, and I think that might be an opportunity for President Trump to visit India as well. From a certain perspective, I think India is from our perspective, it is a good sign that President Trump and his closest advisors believe that the focus of the U.S. should be on the Indo-Pacific and not in the European theater. From that point of view, resolving the Ukraine crisis, moving to focus on the Indo-Pacific is something that is very much in keeping with our, I would say, priorities. And we would like to see the US more engaged. We'd like to see the Western powers more engaged and our partners in the Quad more engaged in the Indo-Pacific, where we believe the real work lies. And from that perspective, Trump's strong emphasis on strategic ties, whether it is changing the nomenclature of the Pacific Command in Hawaii to the Indo-Pacific Command, whether it is instituting a new mechanism called the 2+2, the Foreign and Defense Ministers meeting on an annual basis, whether it is strong support for India in counterterrorism after Pulwama and enlisting wanted heinous terrorists who are wanted for heinous crime like Masood Azhar in the UN Security Council's 1267 committee list. I think there has been strong actions from the Trump administration, and we believe these actions will continue. And I think it is definitely in keeping with the larger vision of President Trump from what we can see from his statements and his advisors, like Senator Marco Rubio is going to become Secretary of State, Mike Waltz is going to become NSA. I think all of these individuals have a strong perspective when it comes to working with your strategic partners in areas like the Indo-Pacific and working on a common platform, taking that strategic relationship, exponentially forward. And I think that suits our interests as well.
Well, Ambassador Kenneth, I want to ask you, there's been a lot of buzz in the social media about TikTok and Tesla. Elon Musk center stage, and Tesla has been a company that is yet to launch in India, and there have been concerns. Moving forward, how do you expect these differences to be ironed out by the Trump administration in coming weeks and months?
Well, Tesla is a private U.S. company. It has explored the Indian market on a few occasions. I don't know what the exact issues are between Tesla and the government of India. And I don't expect the Trump administration itself to be active in that issue. I may be wrong, but I think that's going to be a question of whether the Indian government provides the assurances or incentives that Tesla is looking for, and they have to make that decision on a business basis, whether that relates to tax issues or tariffs or other concerns. And I don't know what Tesla's overall business model is in terms of where it wants to move geographically. So it's not an issue that I will be able to give you any inside information on, and I'm not sure, I can't say with certainty, but I'm not sure it's something that the Trump administration would be directly involved in either.
Well, Secretary Shringla, a lot of people around the world talk about the unpredictability of President Trump. Most people say that that's part of a strategy. Do you think there are going to be surprises coming up, let's say in the first 6 months or 1 year? How are you looking at it?
Well, I mean, you would have to expect surprises because that's the way President Trump operates. I mean, he did that in the first term, and I think whether you're a friend or you're a foe, you have to expect surprises from that, from the White House and from the administration. The fact of the matter is that you have to, be able to anticipate certain situations. Not all situations can be anticipated. I must admit that there were situations that caught us off guard in Trump 1.0, and they will certainly do that in Trump 2.0. But in my view, it's important for our side to be able to engage proactively with the Trump administration, work very closely on issues that are comprehensively required from our perspective. I think Ken mentioned some of those issues earlier, whether they relate to economy and tariffs, access to Indian investments, technology, or whether they relate to concerns like dealing with legal migration, H-1B visas, green cards, or whether it comes to issues that are in the geostrategic sphere. I think we need to engage the United States very proactively And we need to find via medias in any areas that are challenging and which could prove to be, those that could be more onerous in terms of discussion. So before you get to the stage of coming to any, divergences, you need to address those proactively and preemptively and try and reach certain arrangements that would be satisfactory to both sides. And I'm sure Ken would agree with me because that's his approach even at 1.0, that get there early, get your issues sorted out and don't wait to the bitter end until things get, out of hand.
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add to what Harsh has said, the best prediction of U.S.-Indian relations in Trump 2.0 is looking at what happened in Trump 1.0, and I think it was one of the very bright spots of U.S. foreign policy, and I'm proud of the fact that Harsh and I and others such as Minister Jaishankar worked closely together to have a very positive relationship. Like in any normal relationship, there were some speed bumps along the way, but overall, whether you look at defense, trade and investment, even though I think it could do more, still went very well. Technology transfers and questions of that nature, science and technology, environmental issues, energy issues, space, oceans, education, agriculture, across the board, we work very well together.
So, Ambassador Juster, many would be asking today, if there's anything to worry, especially on the issues that were raised by Secretary Shringla, on issues of H-1B visas, on issues of the Indian diaspora already in the United States. Would they be facing exits given the position President Trump has taken during his campaign about America first? Is there anything for Indians in America to worry?
I would hope not. I mean, if there are illegal immigrants, and it's particularly as the president-elect has indicated, who have committed crimes or not followed the laws of the United States, they may face deportations. There were deportations during the first term of the Trump administration, but that's for people who are not obeying and following U.S. law and are illegally in our country. But the U.S.-Indian people-to-people relationship is extraordinary. There are over 5 million Indian Americans. There are more Indians, students studying in the United States than any country in the world. I heard the figure of over 300,000. And on H-1B visas, the president himself has recently stated how important those are. India has always had the lion's share of those visas. They play a critical role in our technology industry. There may be some fine-tuning in terms of making sure the salaries for these folks who come in, highly skilled talent from India, is sufficiently high so that the program is not taking jobs away from other Americans who might be able to fill the job responsibilities. But I expect that program to continue, and I expect the relationship at a people-to-people level to be extraordinarily positive.
On that note, of course, Indians in the United States would be extremely satisfied with what you've just said. And if I before I let you go, if I just ask both of you to tell me in one line what your headline for President Donald Trump's 2.0 term would be. Would you like to go first, Ambassador Juster?
I don't know if there's a single headline. I think President-elect Trump will come in and promote a strong America that projects its image positively overseas. And for him, it's very important to make sure our borders are secure and that American workers are getting job opportunities.
Well said, Secretary Shringla. If you can say that in a headline, possibly make our jobs simpler.
Well, he has certainly made some comments. He has talked about, vitalizing the greatest civilization. He's also talked about, some sort of revolution of common sense. So I think from that point of view, a new era of national success. I think we should just simply say Trump 2.0, a new era a new global era.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me on this very special broadcast on the day when, in just a few moments from now, President Donald Trump will take oath to be the 47th President of the United States of America. Big moment, and everybody's got their fingers crossed that they pick up where Modi and Trump left off when he ended his first term. Thank you very much, Ambassador Juster, and thank you, Secretary Shringla, for joining me tonight.